Good day, lords and ladies, and welcome to Citizen Sleeper, a Cornish Let's Play series. Citizen Sleeper, in my opinion, is a real sort of hidden gem of 2022. I think it's only got about 250 reviews on Steam. But for someone like me who plays a lot of role-playing games, both on computers and in real life, this game is special. As someone who was disappointed with how Cyberpunk turned out and how the Cyberpunk genre in general seems to have relatively fallen by the wayside, there are a few games that are trying to sort of revive it recently. But it has seen better days, and it's not as popular a genre as it once was. So I was really happy when I saw this title and when I played it. This is a proper RPG cyberpunk game. Single player, it runs off a D6 system, for those of you who aren't familiar with dice systems. A D6 system is considered to be one of the more straightforward and simplest of dice systems to run with. Games like Shadowrun, Blades in the Dark, those kind of role-playing games use D6 systems. And I'll get into more depth later on, but for a brief overview, Citizen Sleeper is a game developed by Jump Over Age and published by Fellow Traveller. Fellow Traveller has a lot of very unique titles under their belt as a publisher, and the developers Jump Over the Age have another title as well, which has also got very high reviews on Steam. But Citizen Sleeper is their next, but I think in my opinion, their first proper large, impactful title. And is a real jewel of a game that I think people should play. It just gets the feel of cyberpunk, futuristic cyberpunk down really well. And I'm really happy to be able to show it off with you in this Let's Play. Now, I have played one playthrough of this game, just to get a feel of how it goes and sort of get used to the systems. The game is going to have 3 episodes. 2 of the episodes are currently out, and the next episode, Cordon, is basically going to be out sometime this year. So far, Flux, which is episode 1, and Refugee, which is episode 2, are both out. So it's a really good time to pick up this game. So let's play a new game. Now, you have only 3 saves. Mechanist was the first time I played through. I managed to get 36 cycles in before I got what I consider to be the easiest sort of ending, the easiest sort of positive ending you can get in the game. It still wasn't that easy, but it still was more straightforward than others. So let's try Empty, and I'm going to go for a much more challenging role. See, we are a sleeper. For those of you who are interested, sleepers are basically copied personalities, basically like a copied brain scan of a person put into a artificial, I believe it's supposed to be sort of like a cybernetic or a cyborg, like a heavily augmented body, like vat grown, and then they've basically put cybernetics into its body that are used for corporations for basically menial tasks as a cheap disposable labour force. And I won't spoil too much of the plot, but you are one of these people. And you start with different things here. So, we could go an operator. An operator works with drones and high-precision remote machines to perform complex tasks from a distance. Sleepers assigned to operator work for usually cerebral or precise people. And the perk we start off with, chance to gain cryo, which is our currency, on interface actions. And you have 5 stats in the game: engineering, interface, endurance, or endure, intuition, and engage. And these basically gives you benefits on d6 dice rolls for challenges. They're basically, think of it like a modifier. But unlike, say, a d20 system where you have a deep track of a lot of stats, a d6 system is relatively simple, which is that you basically will have a set number of dice, and you have to get basically a dice roll that either matches or is over the sort of set skill limit for that roll. And these five talents or traits here basically, or 5 skills here basically modify the dice roll as a result. So for example, if we were doing an endurance check with a character and our dice roll would be reduced by 1, but if we were doing an interface check, it would be increased by 1. There is also Mechanist, or the Mechanist. The Mechanist repairs and modifies automated systems used in industrial resource extraction. Sleepers assigned to Mechanist work are usually diligent, careful, and structured people. Chance to gain random scrap item on engineering actions. Personally, I like the Mechanist. I think as a class to go into in this game to start off with, Mechanist is actually the easiest one to do, just for survival purposes. And then you have the Extractor. The Extractor work on resource extraction, often in a hard vacuum environment. Sleepers assigned to Extractor work are often confident, self-sufficient, and have a high level of endurance. And basically, Sunbathe Dice Action allows energy recovery at home. Basically, energy is one of the meters that you have to sort of keep track of. We'll get into that a bit later in the game. Personally, I am going to go with Mechanist. Partly because I know how the class works, and that is one of the things that is like a real boon to have. Also, I got a relatively short ending the first time I played with this character, and I really wanted to see what the more sort of long-term ending for this character is, because there's multiple endings you can do and do it different ways. And but it just felt right for that character to have him retire with that end of that story. So I'd like to basically check out with this character. So we're going to go have a Mechanist. We start with +1 in engineering, which means that work with machines and physical tools, but are basically are engaged, our ability to like communicate with people will suffer as a result. And we get a chance to gain random scrap item on engineering actions, which is actually pretty useful. Which is why I like this class, because scrap is actually a key resource in this game. Let's start the game. Unknown. Who are you? The first thing you become aware of on waking is the disconnection. The delay between thinking and feeling. Between wanting to act and acting. Minor, almost imperceivable, but always present. It's at its worst when waking, when yourself has just spent many dark hours recalling what it felt like to be real, to be a person, to be in a body that was indisputably yours. Let's go think of that body. A leap into a cold lake on a hot day, the sting of blood welling from a fresh wound, the friction of a fingertip. All of a sudden, the memories are closer than you thought, blurring as you approach, until you can't tell one from the other. The cold slips in behind and around you, and the sensations fade out of reach. Perhaps you should be thankful for the dulled nature of this new body, given your current circumstances. The walls of the container feel immediately present, cold, hard, at your back and face, cramping your limbs. You resist the desire to stretch, knowing that the claustrophobia comes next, and retreat a little from your central nervous system. It isn't painful, not like you used to know pain, at least. In emergency mode, pain is a message delivered with efficiency and ease, a reminder that harm is imminent. There is no instant throb, no trembling nerves, just a warning delivered with the banal quality of a digital notification. Right now, there are thousands of them. So remember the plan, remember the others. Just remember the plan. You mostly remember that it wasn't a good plan, but your options were limited, and once you got the itch to get out, by any means possible, it was either that plan or something much worse. It was at least simple. Collapse the shaft, drift away in the chaos, slip into the cargo processing, seal yourself into a containers, then just hope the freighter left before you were missed. Some were lost in the shaft, others never found the meeting point. Only a few made it to the containers, but the freighter, as far as you know, left. That feels like enough to know that you might no longer be on that grim, heartless rock. Even if, in the airless hold of a freighter, you might freeze solid long before you reach your destination. You can wait for the code or try to rest. Let's try and rest. But you are restless. It has been a long time since you left. Surely weeks, maybe months. And you're dully aware of the damage to your legs, your right arm. You have been reserving energy as much as possible, but your body has still needed to shut down many of its systems to protect you. You have spent much of that time asleep, knowing that anything else would be impossible to endure. You feel the weight of that impossibility begin to gather. It is time to sleep again, to nudge that false body into indulging delta waves in your emulated mind, and once again recoil into a dream of when you were once a person. Time passes. The cold keeps creeping further in. You feel something. Warmth, not true warmth, but an indication of its presence. Your joints release from their rigor, sound too everywhere, screeching and simmering, so loud that your body ducks your hearing to protect its senses. Then the light, white as the cold, softer and softer until a haze of dirty yellow a figure approaches. You are out. Welcome. Welcome to the station. Welcome indeed. So this is the game. We've just woken up from our attempted escape, and we are on a station of some kind. It looks like a ring station. So there's not a lot we can do. Some little spacecraft running around. Dragos. Problematic scavenger. Yeah, a problematic and private scavenger. It's been a few hours since Dragos pulled you from the container. You sit huddled in a corner of a scrapyard, swaddled in a reflective fold of a mylar blanket. You are slowly coming back to consciousness, back to life, and you stare at the ornately carved elements of an improvised heater. I love the art style in this game. This just screams, this is cyberpunk. The sign of gritty, dirty, sort of like he's got augments. You can see they've been sort of put in, but they're not being put in nicely. Sort of like this blend of sort of techno-punk. It's sort of like a cross between Warhammer 40k and cyberpunk. I just sort of love this sort of like brutal, simplistic nature of this setting. You are surrounded by angular, incoherent lumps of ships. Some corroded beyond recognition, others still carrying glassy wounds or along their edges where plasma arcs slice them apart. As you trace their shapes with fogged eyes, you hear a voice. So, sleeper, you all thawed out yet? Let's go with I think this character is going to be. Well, there's no wrong in being polite. Almost, you say. Never seen one of you come in like this. New frames must have better perseverance. in sub-zero vacuum. Seen more than a few of you frozen solid in hull plate or inside outer lockers in my time. They weren't so lucky, says Dragos. The man comes into focus, shrouded in makeshift tech, his headset with its glinting eyes mark of a drone operator. On his shoulder, one of his symbiotically linked drones perches. Its iris eyes look at you with unflinching stare. Last living sleeper that came through this yard was a while ago. They didn't last long, he mutters. You struggle to read his expression beneath the tech, but he seems lost in memories for a moment, or perhaps he's just figuring out what to do with you. Let's go with what happened to them. He ignores your question. I won't ask what led you to do it, to sell yourself to a corporation, and I suppose you know you can't go back. Your old body, that's theirs now, and you are just software, a rogue emulation illegally processing corporate property. So yeah, this is the thing I was saying about. Basically, the old you sort of sold their body and mind to a corporation, and in response for like a payment, they make a copy of your mind and upload it into sleeper bodies, like these basically. I think they're a mixture of I think they're like cyborg bodies, like blank cyborg bodies that the sort of emulated minds get uploaded into. You nod along. You remember biometrically signing the forms, the cold floor on your feet as you're padded to the sleeper cells. The promise of a life off-world, but as you do, you get the now familiar sensation that these aren't your memories. These are the things you know, but not things you feel. You are no longer that person. You are an offsuit, a copy. What you won't know is what's ahead. At least the last one didn't. There's no easy way to put it, but that body of yours is falling apart. It's the same with any sleeper who makes it out. S&ARP wants to protect their property, but if they can't keep hold of you, well, then no one can. You remember that too, at least rumours of it, from other sleepers. Planned obsolescence, a built-in dependency on the regular administered supplements that were part of your routine. Stop taking them and your body begins to shut down, separate from your emulated mind. How long has it been? How long do you have? But for now, sleeper, you're one of the lucky ones. Dragos glances up and away towards the gloomy dome of the yard. The Eye is the best place you could be right now. The Eye, you say? The station. You'll see it soon enough. Dragos impatiently shifts his weight. Look, I've got things to be getting on with. He trails off. There's an old freighter container I've been using as storage out in the stacks. We haven't been pulling in much valuable scrap these days, so you're welcome to it. Something wells up inside of you, emotion, fatigue. You shakily get to your feet and nod. All right, you head on up there. You look like you need some rest. And with that, Dragos stalks back into the wrecks. His drones already converging on a rusty hulk. His plasma's flashing silhouettes. His plasma flashes silhouetting his spindly figure as he returns to work. Tutorial introduction. Welcome to Erlin's Eye. Life on the Eye runs in cycles, during which you can talk to characters, explore areas of the station, perform actions. At the end of each cycle, you need to head to your current home to rest. Resting will move time forward on the station. Head to the empty container location to rest and end the cycle now. So welcome to the Eye, folks. You can see our characters here. I'd like it if they allowed you to put a name on, but I suppose they're going for like the faceless sort of survivor. You do get upgrade points. Upgrade points cost basically points to upgrade. You can see there's two brackets. There's 1 point upgrade, 2 point upgrade, and then 3 point upgrade. And you can see that they're basically broken into two types. You get initially you get a trait, and then you get a modifier, and that's how it repeats. So currently we have a +1 to all engineering actions, and the trait random efficient extractor, which basically gives us random scrap item on engineering actions. So one of the ones I would say is always really good to get early on. Sunbathing is very nice to get. Yeah, sunbathing is a really nice skill to get, and to get all early on, I should say. Self-repair is good. Instant karma is actually really powerful to get if you can get it early on. So my plan is to probably go engineering, endurance, and intuition. These three are actually really good to have. Probably get endurance next to get the sunbathe, so it basically allows me to sort of use dice to get energy back. But I really want to get instant karma. Being able to reroll your dice once per day is actually really powerful to get. So I may go down the intuition route really quite aggressively early on. Also allows me dice actions to display potential positive and negative outcomes, which is always also good to know. That's something for next time. So first things first, we have some money, we have our items, we have data, which is basically sort of digital information. So we won't go into that too much right now. But welcome to the Eye, what little bit of the station we are currently on. So empty container. So per cycle, energy, conditions. Let's end the cycle. You wake, curled up in the corner of the container, and begin to slowly assemble the world around you. After all this time, you still find this body, the one you wake up in now, strange and disjointed. Its messages readable, but something somehow wrong. You sit up, pulling the Mylar blanket close against the cold. Here you are on this ruined station, millions of miles from anyone you know, and are you still in the system? Do any of the others make it out? It's impossible to know after all of this what matters. Escape, getting answers, building a life. Well, we've got pretty good distance, but we do need to, like, the thing is, like, what's the point of escaping if you can't build a life afterward? We need to build a life, or at least find some way to escape. Let's go build a life. Maybe you did get lucky finding yourself here. Maybe here on the edge of everything there's a life for you to build. But before you can build anything, you'll need to learn how to survive. Maybe if you can do that, you can make a life for yourself. Dragos has left a few comforts in the container: the Mylar blanket, the bedroll you slept on, a canister of water, a makeshift electrical stove, and some faded sachets of some desiccated powder. You thumb the power stub of the stove and begin to boil the water. The contents of the sachets smell like damp wood, and you sprinkle them into the liquid. As the pungent smell washes over you, you imagine from your restless sleep images from your restless sleep come back to you. A ring like the station, but skeletal and ghostly. A web of threads pulling at your skin. A consternation of bright polygon shapes like angular suns burning into your mind. There's something unpleasantly visceral about these images, and it's long after you finish drinking before they begin to fade. You tidy away the stove as best you can and try to gather enough energy to greet the day. So basically this is the tutorial situation. You have your condition, which is the top bar here in orange. Your condition represents the current state of your artificial body. It depletes by one segment each cycle, but can also be damaged by violence, injury, or lack of food. If your condition bar empties, you will suffer a breakdown. You have to figure out how to recover your condition now that you no longer have access to corporate pharmaceuticals that will keep you alive. The next one are action dice. So this is basically the D6 system. At the start of each cycle, you roll your action dice. These dice can be used to perform actions on the station. The number of dice rolled is based on your current condition. The worse your condition, the fewer dice you have. Once you have used your dice, you cannot take any further actions and must rest to recover them, ending the current cycle. And then you have energy at the bottom, which is this white bar. Energy, you will need to eat to survive. This is represented by your energy bar. You can fill your energy bar by eating, but first you'll have to find somewhere to get food. Your energy depletes by 2 segments every cycle. If it becomes empty, you'll be starving. When starving, energy loss becomes condition loss, and your condition will also deplete at double the rate per cycle. So basically, if we run out of energy, our condition will basically tank and we'll die, for lack of a better word. So, let us leave. Dragos is stood in the container when you close up. Stood in the corridor as you close up the container. He's still wearing his headset, and in the harsh light of the corridor you realise it's an implant. A drone sits on his shoulder, its casse sensor eyes rapidly irising you. How are you feeling? Let's be honest, not good. The drone chirps, Dagon nods. You notice that beneath the operator's rig, his skin is marked by burns and blotches. I know the container isn't much, but it'll keep you safe, he pauses. So, I'm not going to cut the chit-chat too long. You well enough to work? Yeah, we need to get food, we need to get repaired, so sure. Alright then, he nods. As at the yard, it's simple stuff. We hack these old hulls down, sell them off to shipyards or the bright market dealers for cryo. Occasionally we pull out some tech, something that would be a bit more valuable, but most of it comes in as scrap. It's hard to find good hands here, but I figure as a sleeper you'll be used to this manual labour, and obviously I'll slip you a few chits of commission based on what you turn up. Chits? These. He pulls out a handful of small metal bars, air-walled cryo, isolated from the market. It's what we use for trade here. He stuffs them back into a pocket. He shuffles his feet nervously. Look, I wouldn't usually do this. In my opinion, you'll be best suited moving on as quick as you can, and sleep as well. He trails off. But things being the way they are for me at the yard, he pauses. I need the help. Let's go for this. Yes, ask why. Things are a little tight, that's all. I owe a little cryo to a client here and there. He pauses, thinking of something else to add. Look, just come down to the yard when you're feeling fresher. There's plenty to do. Will do, you intone. He nods distractedly, then turns and walks away, the drone hopping along ahead of him. See you later, he calls back. Looks like it's time to get to work. So, welcome to the Eye once again. So we've got a couple of things we can do. We could passage into the low end part of the station. We can investigate. We've got our home base here, and we've got basically our first sort of story point. I'm just going to check out this location here, the low end gate. Pay and low end toll. After some spaces caused some trouble in the low end, Yatakan have imposed a toll for entry. No one gets in without paying. Well, we can't pay anyway. Okay, so we better get to work. Drago's Yard. Actions are a primary way of you interacting with the world of Sit and Sleeper. To perform an action, you drag your chosen action dice to the slot. So this is basically how the D6 system works. Actions reward you with clock progression, energy, conditions, and items depending on the outcome. There are 3 types of outcomes: a positive outcome in yellow, a neutral action in white, and a negative action in red. Action dice affect these outcomes. So a D6 will always be a 100% chance of succeeding. A D5 will be a 50% chance of positive and a 50% chance of it being neutral. A 3 or 4 will basically be a 75% chance of it being at least not negative, with only a 25% chance of it being positive, and a 1 and 2 are 50-50 split between being negative and being positive, or being negative and being neutral. So we have to keep an eye on that. Action display information about the types of risk, level, skill, and modifiers that apply to that action. So we will basically get into it. Like I said, you have basically if it's a repeatable action or if it's basically a story-linked action. Either a critical or repeatable. Critical action can only be performed once. That's something to take notice of. You also have the risk, which is either safe, risky, or dangerous. Safe, basically, we won't lose any condition, energy, or cryo. Negative will basically mean we lose cryo or energy. And dangerous will risky means we will basically lose cryo or energy. And dangerous means we'll basically lose condition if we have a negative outcome on it, or we will lose cryo energy on a neutral action. Our skills play into here as well. So we get either a +1, +0, +1, sorry, -1, 0, +1, or +2, depending on what proficiency in certain things are. And some actions require us to actually have a positive bonus before they will even let us complete. So here's the first chart. We have whole dissection, which is a risky action, and then we've got manual salvage. So we can even the rusted hulls can hide valuable components and materials. Extracting them means cutting carefully and skillfully. Manual salvage. It's going to take some time to get to cut your way through the towers of salvage, but you're no stranger to hard work. And these are the two clocks we have. Clocks are something that comes in the D6 system, which are basically trackers of completions of certain tasks. If you've ever played Blade in the Dark, this clock system is basically something that's in there, where you basically have to fill up the quadrants of the clock to basically get the question to act. Sometimes, like a debt called in, will be something that will automatically fill up. So let's for a start, we've got a D5 and a D3. Personally, I'd like to get this option, get that into a D6, which is an automatic success. So we can start back into business. Every scavenger knows that they're always just one lucky haul away from the next payday. So let's start that one, which will basically tick over. Back in business. Tutorials and clocks. Actions often progress clocks. Clocks are displayed below the action that filled them, and they track your actions and how they affect the world. Filling a clock means something good or bad. It is about to happen. Some clocks, such as the one tracking Dago's debt, are cycle clocks. These clocks tick themselves once each cycle and can complete without player input. Any active cycle clock can be displayed on the icon from that location. So you see, we're back in business. We managed to get a good success. We got critical success, 2 things filled up. Here, which is an endurance, we can try. It's going to be a 50-50 split, so let's try it out. It's a safe option though, so we will never lose condition, just energy. Tutorial, drives, and navigation. In Citizen Sleeper, you will unlock drives as you discover more about yourself and the world. Drives guide you to pursuing specific objectives depending on which path you wish to take. You can track drives, and any tracked drive will play a yellow marker on locations that will help you pursue your goal. Accessing your drive menu via the arrow button at the top left of the screen, which is up here. There we go. You can use your mouse wheel or WSD keys to scroll through the station. And Erlin's Eye. You are now free to explore Erlin's Eye and make your life yourself here. Try tracking down a drive to help you survive. Look for food to keep your energy up and a way to recover condition. Fill clocks to progress stories and find your opportunities. Remember to end cycles at your home when you are out of dice. And we got a neutral outcome, which is not too bad. We got a little bit of money, and we got the progressing on the clock. Now we've only got a couple of dice, 1 dice here, which are actually pretty bad. So we're going to leave, and we have a couple of things that are here. Dockyard C, we've got Rotunda, we've got Dockyard B2. We need to find a doctor. So we've got a couple of drives, basically missions, which are active. Drogo pulled you out the salvage and set you up. Perhaps you can repay his kindness in time. And then we've got survive. You need to access a corporate pharmaceuticals. Otherwise, this escape attempt will come to a rapid end, as we need to find a doctor. So, if we go to the bright market, we can actually... Yeah, let's go to the bright market. Explore the market. Ooh, or engage for the directions. That's a -1, that's dangerous and that's risky. 50-50 chance. Let's try it. Got some local knowledge, which is not too bad. We've only got 1 dice left though. But we have been able to find Sabini, the slum doctor. Next comes the call from the enforcer at the door. You shuffle down the flickering hallway towards the open apartment door. You keep your head down and your shoulders high in the queue, trying not to bring attention to yourself. You are thankful for the tip-off that a doctor was operating out of this place, but now that you're here you aren't so sure. The gang enforcers on the door, the flickering light strips, the decaying hab block, they all made the long queue a test of your nerve, but your options are few, and without a supply of stabilizers, this body, your body, will. You suppress a shiver and shuffle forward to the front of the queue. You try to find something to distract yourself. Look inside, look at the enforcer. Let's look at the enforcer. The enforcer is looking down the corridor and you dare to glance at him. His purpose is unmistakable. He's there to intimidate, to threaten, and if necessary, carry out those threats. His broad shoulders are framed with metal exoskeleton. A couple of mirror-like implants sit below his eyes, like mercury teardrops. Subsidiary sensors, input or aesthetic markers, you aren't sure. You also aren't familiar with the geometric blade-like tattoo on his arm, but you make a note of it. You avert your eyes when he looks back at the queue. After a few moments, the figure pushes through the doorway, and you catch a distant voice. Send the next one in, Tossero. The enforcer jerks his head and you slip inside, passing through the dark entranceway and pushing through the plastic seating on the far door. The room beyond is bathed in warm light. A floor-to-ceiling transparent panel gives a full view of the bright market's sealed-off roof and buzzing traffic above, and for a moment you're transfixed by the motion. Come, sit, calls a sharp voice. Then you see a silhouetted figure turned away, replacing the plastic sheeting over the frame of a simple folding bed. You make your way across the room. Sabine, doctor in the bright market. The figure turns, and as they do, you see an expression of confusion flash across their features. They open their mouth as if to speak, then blink, then quickly regain their composure. Please sit. They gesture to the bed, then turn to open a case of tools on the table. You sit. Sabine turns, a compact diagnostic scanner of some kind in her hand. They hold it to your eye. Remain still, please. Their tone is clipped and businesslike. You stare ahead, still dazed from their expression when you first entered. Fear, recognition, sadness, unmistakably etched across their face. How long have you been on this station? They ask, the scanner still on their eye. A few cycles, you mutter. They nod. It's good you've come to me. They set the diagnostic scanner on the table. I'm going to start by assuming you don't know anything. They take your arm and roll up your sleeve, inspecting your synthetic skin. Your body is dying. They say it without ceremony, without drama, but not without empathy. S and ARP don't like to see their proprietary technology let loose. To prevent bodies like yours, frames as they call them, from being stolen, repurposed, or in your case escaping, they built in a process of so-called planned obsolescence. Frames decay rapidly when not regularly injected with stabilizers, one which Essen ARP remains the sole producer of. They look up. Sounds familiar? Yes, you say. Good. That may help. They swab your other arm, running some thin metal device over your skin. You feel your forearm tremble. I'm sorry, Sabine says, and you unsure if it meant for the cold touch of the metal or anything else. Emulations like you, sleepers, as most people know you, aren't classified as people in any of the surrogate systems. You have no rights, no status. They focus hard on the inspection of your arm, and S and ARP has no reason to release stabilizers into the market. Sabine looks up, as if to acknowledge, to apologise again, but they stop themselves. I know little of this is of use to you. They turn away, disassembling the metal instrument and cleaning it. Silence fills the room as Sabine works, and then the silence gives way to tension. You stare at their back, willing them to say something, anything. Sabine turns to face you. I may be able to help. They sigh, and you see the darkness under their eyes, hear the fatigue in their voice. They gesture to the door. You saw Tosiro outside. You nod. He works for my benefactor, Yatagan. That's that name again. They are influential in the low end. They give me this space to work, run the door, and take the profits. At the same time, I have to fix up their enforcers, tend to their implants, sew up their wounds. They look away. But Yatagan has connections. Smugglers from the Starwood Belt. Mercenaries working for the corporations on Ember. If they can source a stabilizer, maybe you'll have a better chance. Sabine sets down their slate, their notes complete. This is dangerous, and it will be expensive, but I think we can do it. Are you helping me? Sabine walks away to the window, their face dappled by the shadows of passing drones. Let's just see if this works out first. I'll let you know when I have a lead. You nod and leave. Sabine still staring out, unmoving. When you reach the lower level of the market, you look back up through the panels of the roof to see if you can see their face, but the room looks dark against the light of the market. You duck your head and walk out into the crowd. So, we have multiple things going on, but I think this is a good place to end our adventure on Erlin's Eye, and we have a shipyard, Avenger construction yard. That might be interesting as well. So we have a whole host of things that are ongoing. We don't have a lot of dice left. We've got one, and it's a pretty bad roll, to be honest. So we need to find somewhere to get food. We need to find somewhere to get our conditions up. So we need stimulants or stabilizers, as they call them. So we're not in a great state, but it could be worse. And so this has been Citizen Sleeper, a Cornish Let's Play series, and we will be on every Tuesday and Thursday until our conclusion of our story. I've been Cornish-knight. I hope you have liked this new series. I know it's been a bit wordy to start off with, but it will get better. Please like and subscribe. It helps me a lot in the current climate, and I shall see you all again next time. Goodbye.